Hello YouTube, Vlogoneerix Rants here, and today is the start of my series of videos on Kyle Kulinski's appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast. I've been wanting this to happen for months now, and I'm super glad it's finally happened. The conversation was awesome too, and there's some stuff that I want to go over and give my thoughts on. So, this first Pokemon from? So, this first video will be about cultural change, the authoritarian left, and a couple other small things. I want to give my thoughts on those. So with all of that out of the way, let's begin. Well, I'll just play the clip and stop it where I would like to speak about that particular segment. Let's begin.
Well, I mean, think about how much cultural change has taken place in our society just over the last few years.
Sure.
You mean, words that were commonplace are now completely unacceptable.
He's right here. There are more than a few words that used to be commonplace but are now completely unacceptable. Honestly, and I'm a tad disappointed this wasn't mentioned, it goes the other way as well. Words used to be completely unacceptable but are now commonplace. The biggest example of that is fag. It used to be completely unacceptable to use the word fag, but it's made a comeback.
You know, styles of behavior and methods of expression are being criticized and critiqued in this really radical way.
Just a very quick comment. He's right. I just want to add, it's not just coming from the left, or at least sometimes the far left, but also from the right too. Mostly from the evangelical Christian right though, so the far right. And some of those reactions can be just as radical from the right as they can be from the left, if not even more so.
And I think it's good. Ultimately, I think there's a lot of back
to
and
an
forth.
extent, I'd say it's good, but
the sentiment is good. You know, I think the reaction and some of the overreaction, like there's a spectrum, right?
Oh, I've seen the overreactions to a lot of things really from both the left and the right. Really seems that both extremes, at least in some regards, are more alike than they realize or they like to admit.
There's always going to be like, did you see there was something that came out yesterday from Portland State University where Peter Boghossian and James Damore, the Google Memo guy, and Heather Heying, she was a professor at Evergreen State.
I remember with the Jordan Peterson thing.
Yes,
Sure.
and she was actually on my podcast last week with her husband, Brett Weinstein. Can't say Weinstein.
Oh, so I'm not thinking of the same person. I was thinking of the person who got fired because of...
She did not get fired.
Oh, she didn't get fired, but
she
they
left.
criticized her for playing a Jordan Peterson thing. Is that the same person?
No.
Sorry.
That's Lindsay.
Okay, right. Lindsay something. Yeah, sure.
She was in a different university.
Okay.
I actually decided to look that case up, and it was disgusting what she had to endure. And all of this happened because during a communications class tutorial, she showed a clip on Jordan B. Peterson in regards to gender-neutral pronouns and was neutral about it. One of the students filed a complaint about something, apparently not the video, and she was attacked by three superiors who called her transphobe and compared her to staying neutral on Hitler. In a way, comparing her to Nazis. Utterly disgusting. I'm glad everyone apologised involved. I hope at least I hope the three people were sanctioned for their vile, disgusting act and their use of Godwin's law. And they made her a martyr in the process. So what the hell is wrong with you morons? Anyway, moving on.
Laurier?
Canada.
In Canada. Another university in Canada. This is in Portland. Anyway, so they're in the middle of this conversation, and Heather, who is she's a biologist, and she starts going over the biology of the differences between males and females that are just undeniable. And these kids get up and they start yelling that this is bullshit and fuck you and power to the people, all this crazy shit, and then they tip over the sound system.
They tipped over the sound system? What the hell is wrong with you people? Why take your anger out on a poor innocent sound system? What did that sound system do to you, you authoritarian snowflakes? It's one thing to yell, fuck you. It's another to tip over an innocent sound system in your rage. If I sound triggered by that, it's because I am. That's just nonsense. Why attack innocent equipment? That not only makes you look bad, it also takes money out of the university if you damaged it. Way to go, fuckwits.
And They're the most hilarious, classical, liberal, progressive lefties. Green hair. The guy
Yeah.
has like this puffy afro, and he's like, we don't tolerate Nazis, man. Like, these
Yeah.
aren't fucking Nazis. These are biologists, you piece of
Yeah.
shit.
Joe, they're not classical liberals. They're not libertarians. They're not progressive either. You're actually talking to a progressive. What you're talking about are authoritarian leftists, the people on the top left of the political spectrum. And Kyle, why didn't you call him quickly on that? That could have taken maybe 30 seconds, and then he could have gotten back on with the story.
That stuff is the kind of stuff that I think turns people off to the left.
Yes.
And almost provides a gateway to the right where all of a sudden people can buy into an even broader right-wing ideology. Because if you look at the left and that's your perception of the left, is it's the people with the pink hair or the blue hair and they're just going around and their whole point is to deplatform people or censor people or scream about Ben Shapiro or whatever the case is.
Oh yeah, those people are idiots. And thanks to the septic community, now more than a few people think that anybody that isn't at least a 3 on the left-right scale is basically a communist Nazi ISIS member. Or communist ISIS for short. Liberalism, usually sitting right in the middle, ranging from about a 3 on the left to a 3 on the right. And about a 3 on the authoritarian to libertarian scale too.
Like, my whole thing is if you're on the left, and I think most lefties do this to be fair, put the identity politics aside, okay, and let's talk about the things that we actually already have a majority of the American people with us on.
Which is nearly every issue. About the only issue that the left doesn't have a majority of the American people on is the death penalty. That's it. On nearly every other issue, the majority of the US population is with the left-wingers. And I'll let Kyle explain here.
So,
Yeah.
like a classic left-wing idea. Let's have a living wage. The
Right.
minimum wage is not a living wage right now.
Right.
You could work full-time and not make enough money to survive. Well, if you're on the left and you go out there and you talk about we need to fight to try to get a living wage and make our government work for us, well, then you get everybody to agree with you.
Right.
Even most Republicans agree with
Yeah.
you. And you can go down the list, whether it's legalizing marijuana, 60% of the American people are now with us. Ending the wars. There was a poll that came out in 2013, so it's old, admittedly, but only 17% of the American people still wanted to be in the war in Afghanistan. And we're still there today. I'd imagine, if anything, that number probably dropped even further, and everybody's like, what are we doing in Afghanistan?
See? Exactly as I said.
Right, but isn't the problem with polls is when you ask people about it, you're not asking them if they're informed. You're just asking
Yeah,
them.
you're just asking their opinion on it, sure.
Right. Well, what I was saying is about the left versus the right. Is that the real problem is anybody can be on either. So you're going to get these people that are going to disrupt this Heather Heying, lecture on biology from an informed scientific perspective and like, fuck this, man, it's a patriarchy. You're going to get that.
Yeah.
But you're also going to get people like yourself. You're also going to get people that are aware of the issues and educated and are debating this in a very public way and trying to figure out what's the best possible solution to these things. The problem is anytime you have a group, whether it's pick the group, gun owners, vegans, whatever, anybody can fucking join, man.
Sure.
And as soon as anybody can join, you can't look at like the worst case scenarios, the green haired dork that kicks over the microphone because they don't like the idea that Heather is speaking logically about biology. Like, you have to look at like the whole thing.
Sure.
And we don't like to do that. We like to point at the green-haired dork and say, hey, liberals, there's your left.
Which is what most of the right does nowadays, as does a significant chunk of the septic community, and unfortunately a lot of people on the left do that as well. But what Joe said is basically spot on in a literal sense. Go by almost literally any group, you can find the toxic idiots. But you don't go around and generalize about the entire community or movement based on that. And that is exactly what big chunks of the septic community, most of the right, and a fair portion of the left do.
Sure, exactly. And, the breakdown to me is when you look at somebody like that, they're in the category of what I would call authoritarian left. Because they want to control other people's actions. They want to shut down that speech and say, your ideas are so dangerous, I don't even want to hear it.
And it is that group of people, as I've already said, that a lot of people on the right and in the septic community that say, this SJW is what every single left-winger on the planet is. Unfortunately, this happens on the left too, with groups like Antifa and a lot of the social justice warriors themselves. Example, See Richard Spencer? Everybody on the right is just like him. It's an extreme example, but shit like that has been said.
There's a whole nother contingent of the left, which again I would argue is probably the majority of the left, which is the libertarian left, which is people like me and many others who say, listen, live and let live on social issues. I'm never, even though I don't agree with Steven Crowder or Ben Shapiro on anything, I'm never gonna, try to protest to get them to not speak their mind at a school.
It's foolish.
It
It's
is,
foo-
and
it's foolish.
it makes it look like you don't have an argument when you say, I can't let that guy
Exactly.
talk. And then they get to go around and say, I'm so persecuted because I'm right.
Right, right.
Meanwhile, I say, okay, you want to have somebody like that go speak at college? Sure, fine, let him speak. Let me get the speech after.
Exactly, Kyle. Let the right-wing moron who thinks Hitler was a liberal and Democrats are communist Nazi ISIS members speak, and then you speak afterwards and tear him or her a new asshole. Us on the left have the better argument. We have, on all bar one major issue, the death penalty, the majority of the US population on our side. We can win if we burn these idiots down on the far right with the spotlight of logic, as Dusty Smith said. I think that's it for now. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Please rate, comment, share and subscribe, and have a great day everyone.